Hello and welcome back to Podcasting as Praxis. I'm David, my pronouns are he and him.
I'm Jamie, my pronouns are he and him.
And I'm Rob, mine are he and him.
And that's your lot, that's all.
Yeah.
Bye!
Yeah, the dead silence you're hearing is Alistair, who has shuffled off this mortal coil.
Yeah, dead from cold.
You shouldn't do that bit because now if he does die before Friday, I can't put this out.
Just clip it out.
Honestly, if he's died from cold, I think that's noteworthy enough to keep this in.
Yeah.
Terminal sniffles.
Will sound slightly insensitive is what I'm getting at though.
Well, Alistair don't die then.
Yeah, fucking. Exactly.
Pull your weight, man.
Pull yourself up by your preheated bootstraps, which I assume you have.
Let's just fucking cut into this shit because I don't have any more energy for this.
Let's just start a third time.
Oh, it's fine. You'll find the cut point. Okay. Right, so first up, before we get into the big topic that Rob has prepared with many pages of notes, thank you once again, Rob. I can't wait to fucking find out what it is.
So you can find out now. We're going to be talking about Labour's reforms to the criminal justice system and how much it sucks shit.
Oh. Yeah, okay.
Well, we're done here. See you next week. Bye!
Yep, bye. Well, before we go on to that, can I interest you in Labour's reforms to things like the energy market and the computer?
Yes, I would love to hear about it. Are all my little boy dreams, David, coming true at once? And is, Red Ed Miliband riding to the rescue on his, mighty stallion named GB Energy?
All your little boy dreams, as we know them, were like starting a comedy career off being sat on a cupboard. So probably not.
I preferred when Labour heroes rode Mao-style bicycles rather than whatever the fuck Ed Miliband's on. So,
Ed Miliband feels like he would have his own, themed car, like Spider-Man action figures had in the 80s or something like that.
Or Noddy.
Yeah.
Also, I think you'll find that the plural of Ed Miliband is Ed's Miliband, not Ed Miliband's.
Fuck off.
Yeah, to be fair, millibands is some sort of measurement you use to measure the strength of radials.
No, I think it's how you measure the strength of spines, Jamie.
It's cringe, actually.
All right, tell me.
How many wads of money they give you for a consultancy gig?
All right, rescue me, Ed. Come on.
So, do you remember, Rob, you will remember you as the font of all knowledge about energy prices in the UK.
Yes.
That fucking money supermarket cunt can fuck off. Do you remember when before...
Judi Dench.
Yeah.
Do you remember before...
It's a fucking melee between me, Judi Dench, and that fucking meerkat of the ads.
Oh, I fucking hate that meerkat. Give me 100 on Judi Dench.
Oh, Judi Dench just in the meerkat enclosure stomping every fucking hole. Right, okay, no, this is... ADHD has fucking infiltrated the podcast at too great a fucking frequency here. But this is why we need Alistair to offset this shit. Right, okay. So, Rob, do you remember when GB Energy was supposed to make available up to £600 million in funding for local authorities and £400 million in low-interest loans every year for communities?
Vaguely, yes, that rings about the right level of bells. I don't think they've ever started with that, but no, actually they did last year. They distributed some money.
Yeah, they've distributed some money, figure not found, etc., but they have done some stuff. There is an office. There might be people in it sometimes. There's technically at least one employee I'm aware of. But yeah, that was the plan for local energy. The idea being that they would, obviously, because, again, GB Energy doesn't produce energy. That would be silly. The government can't do that.
It has to fund things.
Well, our government can't do that.
No government can do that. Any government doing it is obviously lying and communist, which is also lying. So this basically added up to £1 billion. That would all be put out. This would cover between, depending on what part of the policy paper, which again was one of the only policy papers the cunts put out before that election, either 10 or 20,000 separate projects across Britain.
Yeah. It should also be said at this point that like that manifesto promise of $1 billion a year was already like a massive cut down from the 28 billion a year that was originally promised as an actual, revolutionary change of how England, in possession of a great deal of wind and water would produce its energy mix. But sure.
I know, but you can't you can't produce energy with like wind and water though, because what happens when the wind stops blowing and it's cloudy? You know, I saw some guy
you're right.
I saw some guy on Blue Sky telling Zach Polanski that the other day, so it must be true.
Yeah. What would happen if it stopped being windy in Scotland? I don't know.
No.
Some new sort of era.
What if the tide dried up?
Yeah. I think if the wind dried up in Scotland, you'd start speaking like me, David.
Yes. What if thermodynamics just kind of stopped one day? Have you planned for that, Zach?
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyway, that was the promise made within the policy paper before the election. The election that they, remember, got a massive majority and therefore a huge mandate for all the things they said they would do, because that's the line that they love to fucking trot out, which was essential for delivering cheaper, cleaner power by 2030. They have now...
cool.
What?
Where are we with that?
Fucking nearly 2 years on now, is it? I can't remember when that fucking election was. Anyway, in 2026, they have finally published the local power plan. Ooh. Local power plan says...
Tiny solar panels for everywhere.
Yeah. The local power plan has said that they will now set the bold target of supporting more than 1,000 local and community projects in the first phase of our strategic plan to 2030. A 95% cut in the amount.
Well, I mean, that's just like to be expected because they took over a shambles from the Tories after 14 years of like misrule. That's the word I'm looking for. So, you know, surely 2 years isn't long enough for them to have done anything by them fucking selves yet.
No. This is a party of government that needs to be ready to do stuff, which is absolutely after the next election. And then after that election, obviously they'll need 5 years to deal with all the time they weren't doing stuff in the previous election, and then they can deal with it after the next election.
No,
this
that's
how
right.
liberalism works. Yeah.
That's why they call them 11-year Keir. That's when the good things will finally start to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The amount of money going into this now is up to 1 billion per spending review period.
Yes, that's my favourite.
It was.
Get in.
Yeah, it was per year. The spending review period for infrastructure ends in 2030.
Yes, there we fucking go. We went from, 28 billion a year to 1 billion a year to 200 million pounds a year. Fortunately, and I'm very pleased to report this to all of you out there in podcast land, there is no reason to worry about the price of energy right now. It's all good. Go to bed.
No, well, I mean, we're going to run out of natural gas, and then there'll be like blackouts
in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, as we return to like fucking the chaos of the 70s with Jeremy Corbyn, and then British Gas can't charge you for electric if they aren't generating any, so bills will come down.
I'm going to steal a tiny rowboat and mine the English Channel. It'll be fucking great.
Yeah, all right, Shabana Mahmood, calm down.
One last point on this this whole plan. Ed Miliband previously promised that all of this money that was going to go into this would give us the production capacity to generate 8 gigawatts. There is no figure given as to how successful this money will be now. They haven't even tried to quantify it with a number that can be measured against.
Fantastic. That's wonderful.
GB Energy really is like the absolute peak of whatever the fuck Starmerism's supposed to be. Like, just absolutely nothing offered whatsoever. Just a slowly diminishing, decaying nothing. It's the false vacuum of politics.
I know, but
imagine, if you're a faithful fucking listener to this podcast, then you would have known this by now because, some of us have the power of reading things.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I think you're being unfair to Starmer, right? And it's like, he's very good at what he does and is his area of expertise. The government just hasn't, just tragically hasn't had a need for his skill set yet. The day will come, right, when the solution to the problems Britain face is night courts for like fucking Deliveroo drivers, and then his time to shine will be upon us. Do you know what I mean? Then it'll be real 1,000-year Reich hours.
Yeah, I mean,
it'll be like the Mormons, but he'll produce 2 golden tablets worth of memos.
Yeah.
He's more of a kind of like dark chuckle brother type vibe. Just cannot help but fuck it up in the most depressing of ways.
The Dark Chuckle Brothers just like hurling sulfurs at passerbys. Do you know what I
mean? Like, just incanting from me, from you, from me, from you.
Wabari, right? Okay, next up. This is a fun one. Do you remember digital ID?
No, it's gone. I was assured that everybody hated it and nobody liked it, so it's gone now. That's what I've been told is true.
Yep, and that was true, but it's back in piss form.
Can you give me 10 minutes to?
So it's back in piss form. That being the piss form of Darren Piss Jones, who has relaunched it.
That fucking guy.
Yes. Yeah.
Didn't he get drummed out of the party for like?
No, that was someone else that just.
That was several someone else's.
It was several someone else's.
I just got confused because I saw him waving the bus off.
Yeah, he's also not the guy who recently, voluntarily stepped down because he'd been, telling military intelligence that several journalists pose a threat to the state. That's another guy again. But this is Darren Jones, who's yet another vat-grown bastard that we can never get rid of. Got him.
Oh no, I remember him. He was on the news. Fucking talking shit, wasn't he? That's where we saw him last. I can't remember what the fuck he was talking shit about, so maybe just cut this whole bit and then take me out back, fucking shoot me and get a different podcaster.
He's 100% been on the news talking shit at least once. I've seen.
No, I know, but like last time we mentioned him on the podcast, it was because like, oh yeah, he was on fucking. He was telling like Laura Koonsberg why fucking. Do you know what I mean? Wood is a type of vegetable now, or something like that, and so it's very nutritious for children. We're gonna use children like beavers to clear forests, and that'll replace the pledge in the manifesto for free school breakfasts or whatever.
Yeah, where else will they get their fibre? So,
exactly.
Anyway, Darren Jones has decided that he's taking on this wonderful, wonderful scheme that everyone loves, and good luck to him using this as some sort of fucking stepping stone to whatever the fuck is next. Already inexplicably fucking cabinet minister, so who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, fuck him, right? Like, he's a complete non-entity. Do you know what I mean? Like, if the Dark Lord, like second only to Satan himself, Tony fucking Blair, couldn't get ID cards through, I'm not fucking worried about Darren Piss Jones. Quite frankly, like, do you know what I mean?
I mean, like,
So-
I think we did come quite close to it. The only reason that got shit canned is because Labour got toughed out of government. I'm pretty sure that would have ended up happening in 2010 had the Tories not took over. Like, the one
Okay.
thing they actually fucking made better.
Okay, but that's like, right, you know what I mean? Like, oh, Galactus almost devoured the Earth one time, and now, like, back to devour the Earth is Stiltman or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just genuinely couldn't give a fuck. Like, I'm not phoning the Avengers over this shit, frankly.
Yeah. So this digital ID, because the previous one was going to be a mandatory digital ID, this one will be voluntary.
Well, he can shove it up his fucking arsehole then, can't he?
Voluntary is very much something that you can call something that is currently voluntary before you very quickly change it to be something that isn't voluntary, as we all know. Which apparently could eventually allow people to do everything from managing their childcare to filling in tax returns on a one-stop app. So what he's trying to basically do here is invent X the Everything app, but for a government that doesn't make things and not have any real want or existing user base that cares enough to want it.
Yeah.
So in
the thing to
between
note-
getting scammed for my tax returns, I'm going to get ads for fascist on my voluntary digital ID app. Cool.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's going to make it part of that. But it's going to be the same kind of idea. It's, here's an app where you can do everything. That sounds great. That sounds like a really good way for me to lose access to everything at once.
Yeah. I mean, I can already do my taxes. I don't need a fucking app for that. Also, aren't they already doing a fucking app for that?
No.
I keep getting emails about like making tax digital, and I'm like, yeah, I already do it on the computer. Fuck you.
Yeah, no. So that isn't actually the way that works. Is that it's not actually the government that gives you an app to do that. It's you now need to go and ask someone else in the private sector who's made an app to.
Oh, so it's just yank taxes.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. That's how that works.
All right. Well,
Kinda.
why don't they just fucking say that then?
Yeah, well, it's not so much the yank taxes in like it's really you need an accountant and all that kind of stuff. It's just straight up you need to pay some software company that has accounting software that will talk to the systems the government has. It's like you're not allowed to just code your own shit. That would be communism. So you have to use one of the pre-approved systems.
Why does it need an app at all, though? Because like fucking, there's already a website and you can put your taxes into that.
Oh, it's
And it's not
because of
digital enough.
the way the Yank tax service works, as far as I understand it, is basically like it is almost impossible to use the service provided by the American tax authorities. You have to use a commercial program that I think is called TurboTax. So like it's just that essentially, like, what if we made HMRC as dog shit as possible and then put this like intermediary in the middle?
Yeah, you can just like log on and just submit a tax return or whatever just now. Like there's a whole system set up for a bunch of different government shit that is literally just like it's called gov.uk one login.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
like, there's a unified login system for like if you go onto gov.uk and if you're doing some DWP shit and then you go, oh, I've now got, I've claimed my benefits or whatever and filled in my universal credit journal. Now to go on to HMRC and file the tax return for my very large business or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, for that kind of shit, the things that would really need it. Oh, now after doing those two things, I've now got to go on and update fucking DEFRA on the size of my land holdings. You know what I mean?
Or to, like apply for your wizard robe and hat from the Ministry of Justice or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay, fine. And again, I don't really mind the idea that kind of makes sense. Like, people have many reasons to use it. Fair enough, whatever. Like, probably not as many as could be said, but okay, whatever, fine. However, it doesn't do anything with regards to ID, which is bad. Why wouldn't it? It would be much better if it did. But they can't just change that system because that system is just a unified login system. So why not have ID? Like I said, this was shit canned.
I would think also as well, they probably can't change that. And obviously I know nothing about this, but like I would imagine they probably can't change that system because they just paid some bunch of fucking contractors to do it years ago, and then like they all fucked off over the hill with their money, and like no one.
Yeah, I
no
mean,
one's
this
around
has
who
been
knows how the
tried
code
before.
works.
No, it hasn't properly been tried
Possibly.
before, but yeah.
I don't know about this one and whether or not it could be. And amazingly, the government actually does have some people who know how to code, like in staff, and they do occasionally make them do stuff. Like the gov.uk, a lot of that is run internally, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
There absolutely are fucking companies that run parts of it, or like, there's obviously in the post fucking Thatcher years going to be third party companies with their fingers in every pie possible. It's not good to have the in-house digital ID. It's marginally better in some way than the third party run digital ID, I'll grant you, but
It doesn't,
at what
quite
cost?
frankly, I'm
It doesn't
kind of,
matter.
It's like a distinction without a difference. Like it's not better if like fucking Darren Jones and the fucking minions from the Minions movie have made it versus Palantir. Like it still sucks shit. You don't need it because it will be abused for worse things to come.
It's very much, they say the next bomb will be sent by a woman.
I think that the important thing for Darren Piss Jones here is that like it is a new app, right? Entirely new and separate from anything that's gone before, so that he can give it to the worst bunch of fucking tech freaks on the planet who will immediately cram it full of AI and also leak everyone's fucking ID everywhere.
I'll get to that in a minute. The results will surprise you. But I want to just talk quickly about the fact that this was shit canned literally a month ago and it's back. There was.
Is it because they don't have any fucking ideas?
Well, I don't know if that's really. I mean, it is an idea. It's not a good one, but it is an idea. And it was owned once by Tony Blair. So
sorry, okay, they don't have any other ideas. I should have said.
Yeah,
they're just going to keep bouncing this fucking idea off our foreheads until like we accept it, or like the universe fucking like experiences heat death, because it was Tony Blair's great unfinished fucking legacy project, and how dare the public defy Lord Tony in the way that they did by not wanting a fucking ID card just so he could persecute Muslims. And now, like, you know what I mean? It's like they've tried also, you know what I mean? Oh, it'll help you with like illegal immigrants. It'll stop the boats. It's like, fuck off. Do you know what I mean? Like, even the worst stop the boats headbangers don't, like, you know what I mean? Aren't prepared to like carry an ID card to do that, right?
No, they hate it more than like most like quote unquote normal people. In fact,
yeah, they absolutely do. So there was a
because
petition.
Magna Carta and shit like that. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
So now it's like, well, okay, right, you don't want it to persecute Muslims and you don't want it to stop the boats. What if we said you could do your taxes and you could like fucking, argue with the council that you shouldn't have to pay council tax because of 1066 or something like this. We could do it all of that in one app. And then when that gets rejected, they'll be back with like, what if it would open the Strait of Hormuz? Do you know what I mean? Like fucking
in one handy app. Yeah. I'm just really taken with the idea right now that like your average Facebook like Magna Carta dad all of a sudden is like after all this gets super fucking mad about fishing weirs in the Thames and whether or not his local baron actually has a right to it. I think that'd be like an excellent use of time.
Yeah.
Honestly, it would be. They should get more involved in that. They should take the Magna Carta even more literally. But yeah, those people in particular though are the ones that put them off. So there was a 3 million signature petition back in February that got them to go, that's not great. But what really mattered to them was some polling, specifically this one done by Ipsos, which said that when they split down a bunch of responses as to whether or not people were pro or anti the idea of digital ID, Labour voters were 41% in support, 25% didn't care, and 34% opposed. Tories were almost exactly the same. Reform UK voters, only 23% of that supported it, a whole 63% of them fucking hated it. Anyway, this presentation was given by Darren Jones. He showed a prototype of government by app.
Okay.
I have a picture of something that was presented, and it is amazing. It is fucking incredible. Just like phone screenshot. Wow, look at the technology.
Wow.
The best part about this is the massive near you section, which I'm sure all the people who fucking hated it and also hate 5G masts and everything else like
and
that
15 minutes.
will
This
be
is for the
super.
15-minute city freaks among us. Like,
Oh, definitely,
they would be super psyched about the idea of a government app that knows where you are. Wonderful stuff. Well done, Dan.
Yeah, that's amazing. That, like, although you
Yeah.
know, this becomes mandatory, and social media becomes like cleaned up overnight as every fucking like Baz in the country throws his phone into a river. Just have them all like posting from inside a Faraday cage, like fucking enemy of the state. I do love that though. Near you, like, you know what I mean? Like, fucking, I've just driven to Birmingham. Let me have a go at their council. Like, what the fuck is that like? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So,
that, like, what if
part of this-
Grindr? What if Grindr, but for government services?
yeah.
Bin men in your area are hard.
Damn it, you got there first. Fuck you.
Yeah, there were no bin men left for Rob.
So, as part of the launch or whatever of this, because it's not anything that's actually launching, this is the initial stages. There is an 8-week consultation, which if anyone is going to fill it in, I beg you to fill it in only with things like, fuck off, don't do this. Do not give them any nuance, because they will pick apart any nuance you take and just use that to build consent with it, so don't do it.
Yeah.
Secondly, a people's panel, which is an incredible thing for a fucking government minister trying to build a digital ID app to convince reform voters that they should switch over. Like, a people's panel, which is going to be made up of 100 individuals from across the country with different backgrounds to advise on the scheme. Cool. I can't wait for 100 small business owners to get involved in this shit.
I mean, 100 people from different backgrounds is like a reform voter's worst nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. A quote from Jones. People too often dread their interactions with public services. Endless telephone
I can't imagine
calls.
why. Oh, fuck.
Endless
it's not because of
telephone
endless
calls.
telephone calls, you fucking helmet. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's because of fucking... It's because when someone says to you, public servant, you picture Darren Piss Jones.
Complicated printed forms and having to tell your story multiple times to different parts of government.
No,
what
you
are
don't
you talking
know.
About?
What the fuck is he... Like, do you know what I mean?
I
It's
don't
like,
know
yes,
what problem he's imagining.
His problem is, right? His problem is that when he fucking needs to, like, say, I don't know, get a new bin from the council or whatever, he wants the achievements for doing it all 3 different ways. So he phones them, fills in a fucking paper form, and goes on the website at the same time. And like the council send him 3 bins. Do you know what I mean? Like, you only need to do one of those, Darren. You're an MP. You should have been able to figure this out.
Yeah.
He says, I want to change that and make public services work for you. The new digital ID will make that possible.
How?
You to log on. He tells you, allowing you to log on and prove who you are to access public services more quickly, easily, and securely. And people can already log on, Darren. That's how they do this shit.
Yeah, but he is going to call App Britain.
Yeah, this is genuinely just fucking thick of it shit.
It really is. Apparently, this fucking government app won't be the only way to do things, but it also probably will be eventually, because that's just how this shit goes.
That's incredible. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, we got the app. It does everything. It saves you. You can still do the endless phone calls, paper forms, and websites if you choose. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like the app.
Yeah, because you'll maintain support for that, won't you?
Yeah, no, the app. Well, they will. They probably will, because the app will be like fucking £12 billion to like fucking. Do you know what I mean? Some Silicon Valley twat. And all they'll have is like a fucking guy in the Philippines who fills in the paper form for you.
Yeah, I did enjoy like the end of this article for the BBC that explains how this works, right? How it currently works. So digital ID will be based on 2 government-built systems, gov.uk One Login and gov.uk Wallet. Now, it's important.
Is that where my skills live?
No, it's not. It's not even for that. Gov.uk Wallet was designed and built to house
Crystal.
the digital ID that they cancelled before.
Oh, I genuinely thought you were going to. I genuinely thought you were going to say Britcoin.
Honestly, it would not surprise me if it was off the back of that. Genuinely,
Yeah,
but that is
who remembers treasury
we have
NFTs, Jamie?
Yeah. We currently have existing. It's unlaunched, but there is an app that exists from the government that is a wallet that is supposed to house a different app. Like, I don't understand who convinced them, like, how this works. I genuinely think someone popped the driver's license on the table and said, that's an ID, that needs a wallet. And someone got a contract to build an imaginary app, like, which is fucking incredible, great. Because, like, last I checked, if you need an ID, you need one. You're not, like, more than one legal person simultaneously. That's not how this government or system of government works. So, cool, good job. Anyway, one login is a single account for accessing public services online, which the government says more than 12 million people have already signed up to, because they have to, because it's the only way that you can interact with a lot of fucking services already. So that already exists, and these people are already using this, so why do we need the ID? It's fine.
Because they just want to make it bigger,
wallet.
because the end result is they want to make the system bigger, and they want to push everybody on it, and then say, hey, look, you know, if you build it, the digital ID will come. Essentially, they're just doing, it's just the same shit, but in reverse.
Yeah. Gov.uk wallet has not yet been launched, but it could eventually allow citizens to store their digital ID, which would include their name, date of birth, nationality, residence status, and a photo on their smartphones. Ooh.
Right, so digital ID then.
Yeah, but to log into that, you need the gov.uk one login to get that. So, I get... It's all stupid. The only reason that they have for this is the big initial reason that this was like, oh, we need to do this is to prove that you have the right to work, which is like a ridiculous concept in the first place. That's still actually something that they're looking to do. That's never actually been, as much as like all of this was shitcan, that part of it never was. The digital right to work check has always been a thing that they are planning and working towards. So this never technically did go away. It was just the idea of like, oh, a mandatory ID that everyone carries about that replaces your passport, your driving license. That's the bit that's been shot and then is now being resurrected by fucking piss boy here. But
it's going to be so funny when we've pumped like billions of fucking pounds and years of effort into like digitalizing everything into apps and fucking all this sort of shit, and then the Yanks turn off the internet to bring Jesus back or something like that in like 6 months.
Yeah, or Amazon Web Service once again like allows its fucking agentic AI to do fucking Agent Smith shit and like rip your head off or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. If Jesus knows who's good and who's bad, and that determines whether or not you get public services, don't worry about it. Anyway, finally, just last little bit for the BBC. The system will be built in-house by the government digital service rather than being outsourced to private companies.
I don't believe you.
Yeah,
well, that's what they're saying it will be. I look forward to finding out if that's the case later.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Rob. I'm disturbing your delightful in-ear entertainment to tell you that we have a Patreon at patreon.com/praxiscast. You can go there for more episodes, our Discord, bonus clips, and much, much more. This is also me begging you for your money in exchange for goods and services. Thank you. Oh, very well then. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Get ourselves some snacks. Bye. So, before we start tonight's main topic, I just want to give a quick content warning off the top. We're going to be talking about Labour's current and ongoing attempts to change the British criminal court system. And that means we're going to have to spend some time talking about sexual violence against women and girls and other sort of criminal unpleasantness. So if that's not your cup of tea, don't worry about it. We'll be back with something vaguely more normal next time. Anyway, so having said all that, look, you might remember from several previous podcasts that we've done that the British criminal court system is and has been in a systemic crisis of mainly of underfunding for many, many years now. It is a fucking shambles. And off the top, I would simply like to say that George Osborne is a demon, and the thing that still blows my mind is that, like, when considering who to make U.S. ambassador, Keir Starmer seriously weighed his options between Peter Mandelson and George Osborne, which just fucking beyond nightmare rotation, So, if you're wondering, just like as a little bit of a primer, how it got to be in the current shit state that it is now so bad that, like, the Labour government is not trying to fix the actual problem, but the problem that exists in their head. We'll get to it. So basically what happened, like I said, George Osborne is a demon sent from hell to punish Britain for many of its existing and previous crimes. But mainly what happened is the 2010 austerity budget cuts. This is the, Cameron, Nick Clegg coalition years, Nick Clegg, who recently signed up to Europe's biggest AI data center startup. So, hooray.
Very cool.
Anyway.
Man.
So those budget cuts over time have meant that the Ministry of Justice budget is about £4.5 billion lower than where it realistically should be. It is now 13 billion, and it should be about 18 billion. If we hadn't changed the court system since 2010, and we'd simply just funded it as normal. But obviously we haven't done that.
It's one of those things, though, right? Where we're not going to fund the courts properly because it's not like. They're not a universal service, right? It's like the NHS, right? We don't fund the NHS properly because rich people have their private healthcare and don't need the NHS, so fuck it. And it's kind of the same for courts when you think about it, right? Because rich people just don't face consequences for their crimes, so they're never likely to see the inside of a court. So why should they give a fuck whether or not anyone else gets a shot at justice or not?
Close. It's not quite that. It's that it's not the kind of thing that you can make anyone care about by saying you've done it. Like, it's not, we've given money to the NHS and everyone goes, okay, well, yeah, you're supposed to do that. We've given money to the courts, everyone goes, well, that's a bit of an inconvenience. Why can't you just bring back hanging?
Yeah, I mean, I also think that it is it's sort of certainly in sort of the austerity thinking, or it's just well, this is just a bloated, inefficient system, and if we just cut a bunch of it out, then the system will sort of restart itself and efficientize itself. Among those being the depths of the austerity cuts went to such a way that it closed 8 Crown Court centres, 160 magistrate courts, as well as cuts to free legal counsel, which we've talked about extensively on previous podcasts. And also, bafflingly, the cuts included a cap on the amount of days judges were allowed to sit and actually adjudicate, because obviously when a judge sits for a day, they have to get paid because it's their job. So if you cap the number of days they're allowed to sit, you cap the amount of costs. But of course, that does mean that, over time, so between 2010 and 2016-17, the number of days judges sat in chairs and did actual judging fell by about 20%.
That's also a good upside of that, though, is it means that the judges can then they have more time to get second jobs, So
yeah, I mean
that's good for the judges, right? Because
too...
then they can do a couple of days a week judging cases, and then the rest of the week they can be on the board somewhere, presumably, and fucking, you know what I mean? That's not only good for business and good for Britain, but it also you know what I mean, entrenches inequality, because you're less likely to get a fucking fair hearing from a judge if he thinks anyone who earns less than 7 figures is subhuman scum. So the system works the way it's meant to.
I mean, I want to get into that because this is an actual problem that the majority of judges in the UK are white, male, and privately educated. So that is is a genuine problem with judge bias, which is part of the reason cutting juries is not a good idea. But I don't want to sort of prejudge all judges and say that they're just shitty off the bat, because that doesn't appear, at least to me, to be the case. But essentially to sort of
let me do it.
I know. To continue the brief history lesson, so this court system was already undergoing a lot of very negative, certainly financial changes, and then we get COVID, and obviously for about a year the court stopped sitting, and then even when the world reopens, the courts can't fully reopen because many of the actual rooms are too small for social distancing to be maintained. So they cannot do, the jobs that they are supposed to do. This is a bit from a good article by Dominic Casciani from the BBC. Quote, "This is when the unintended consequences of earlier closures and budget cuts began to bite harder. Take, for example, Blackfriars Crown Court in London. Its 9 courtrooms were once an important centre for serious organised crime cases, but ministers decided to close it in 2019 and hoped to sell the land, brackets, for commercial development, because Blackfriars Crown Court is central London."
Imagine the utopia in which we would live if it was like, if owning land was a capital offence. Do you know what I mean? Like, just so many, genuinely though, so many of the problems this fucking like shithole country faces are because, we sold that so that someone could build something on it. You know what I mean?
Luxury flats, namely. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, okay, how about instead, fuck them, do you know what I mean? And like take all the land back. Like, and you know what I mean? Don't get me started on like fucking all the like huge bits of land that are owned by like fucking posh cunts. Like, they should have to give that back. They should have. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I was allowed to pass one act of parliament, it would be that like, whenever you want to build anything, it has to go on some fucking aristocrat's land first, right? And then when we've used all of that up, then you can start selling like fucking, do you know what I mean? People's houses or like shops or fucking community centres. But before that, we have to get rid of the grouse moors or something.
Yeah, this is what economists call the terror of the commons, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like, because Blackfriars Crown Court closes, quote again the article, many of its cases were shifted to Snaresbrook Court in eastern London. But since the pandemic, that has been overwhelmed. At the end of September 2019, it had 1,500 cases on its books, official figures show. But as of September this year, I think this is published in 2025, it was juggling more than 4,200. So like, it has almost tripled the amount of cases having to go through one court. Now, you might remember, because this was like a Boris Johnson thing, and we were, Jesus Christ, already recording during that time, is that we were going to have these so-called Nightingale courts. These are basically like temporary. This is not Nightingale hospitals, which, if I recall, were actually never built or never did a fucking thing. These actually exist.
I absolutely fucking love that as well. It was like, we're building the Nightingale hospitals, and like, you know what I mean? Like, what? Well, yeah, that Nightingale, because of Florence Nightingale, the Nightingale hospitals. that's such a thing. And then they didn't build those, but they went on calling literally everything else the Nightingales. Do you know what I mean? Like Nightingale courts.
Yeah.
What if we had Nightingale hangings? Do you know what I mean? Like,
this was just this was an autocorrect gone wrong in the COVID era. What they actually meant was night courts. Starmer was
So like, but these do exist, right? But they are all scheduled to like wrap up at the end of this month, March 2026. And the other problem with that is these courts, these Nightingale courts, temporary courts, cannot deal with serious offences because, quote the article again, because they are often in conference centres or hotels with no cells or appropriate security. So like, we're literally just like renting, fucking meeting room B in the local Holiday Inn and calling that a Nightingale court. That is quite genuinely what is going on at the moment.
Just having to meet like a fucking judge and a jury in a hotel room at the Travel Lodge, like you've met them on FetLife or something like that. You know what I mean?
So the end result of all this, which is, again, I need to stress, these were budget cuts. It was mainly just like taking about 30% of the money out of the system and expecting the same results, which of course didn't happen, because the end result of all these cuts was that a lot of serious crimes, including fraud, sexual offenses, violence, etc., now are 20% more likely to need more than a year to conclude. Like, some of them need to take a long time anyway because it's a complex case, but it's more likely that they take a very long time to conclude because of all this backlog in the system. Now, that's, of course, bad for the system itself. It's bad for the victims. It's bad for accused and defendants. It's bad for the judges who have to, like, cram everything in on the day. It's essentially bad for it's bad for the lawyers who have to like represent people in a hurry. This is not good because like a rushed judicial system does not create justice. It just creates rushed decisions, which is not good. It creates miscarriages.
But it's good for the papers because they get to fucking go, look, we made the government do that. Like, you know, they try, like, you know what I mean? Governments get to go, yeah, we sentenced 10,000 criminals every minute. Do you know what I mean? Like fucking Mega City 1 or some shit. And the papers get to imagine that all of those criminals weren't white.
Yeah. But like, if nothing else, right? Even if you take sort of the human element out of it, like it's bad for the course of justice because eyewitness testimony becomes less reliable over time. When, you know, questioned 4 years later, did you see the yellow car, whatever, like you may not remember properly anymore. Sometimes the physical quality of evidence declines over time. Witnesses move from one place to another. You can't find them anymore. Like this is a real problem that requires real solving. And again, the real answer, spoilers, is money.
If I seen Noddy at a crime scene.
The other thing is as well, like, is like the fucking police and the CPS are like catastrophically fucking useless at their jobs as well. So like, the longer it takes for something to come to trial, the more chance there is that they just all tripped over their own dicks and fell down the stairs and dropped all the evidence.
I mean, this does happen in some cases, and like part of the case that Labour is currently trying to make with like the reforms I want to talk about in a moment is to say, look, we have to get rid of juries because we have to speed up the system, because if we don't speed up the system, then like more vicious criminals will be released. And it's like,
yeah,
but maybe,
that's bullshit,
but like,
though, isn't it? Like,
I mean, maybe like it does happen, but not because of juries.
Yeah, but they want to get rid of juries, not because like, oh, it's going to speed up the system, but because like juries might disagree with them on like, you know, whether or not certain fucking like groups deserve to be fucking like sent to jail. Do you know what I mean? Like, far better to just have like a fucking, do you know what I mean? Like a rich white man sit there and go, you know what? Actually, it does piss me off that you did that. So life, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than, you know, because the problem with a jury of your peers is that they're your fucking peers and you wouldn't be on trial if you weren't scum of the earth. So, you know what I mean?
So, like, the answer to this, like, as we've started alluding to, this is a generalized crisis in funding and staffing. And the Labour's answer to this, Jesus fucking Christ, it was introduced in November of last year. This is back when, like, the first sort of press releases were sent around. This is actually not a bad piece by Jessica Algott, who does some shithouse Westminster journalism. This is pretty good. Quote, criminals will be stopped from gaming the system by choosing trial by jury in order to increase the chances of proceedings collapsing, the court's minister has said, promising to enact radical changes to limit jury trials by the next election. Drug dealers and career criminals were laughing in the dock, knowing cases can take years to come to trial, Sarah Sackman said, while warning
why
that
would they
inaction...
be in the dock? If the case is still years from coming to trial, why are they in the dock laughing? They should be at home. But like, seriously though, like, fuck this. This is literally...
This is press release copy-pasting.
Yeah, this is literally the language of tabloid newspapers. Like, oh, they're gaming the system by having a trial? Fuck them. They should have been shot at birth. Do you know what I mean? Like, just government by Richard Littlejohn, and I'm fucking tired of it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, oh, they're gaming the system. Fuck you.
Ministers will legislate to remove the right to trial by jury for thousands of cases in one of the biggest and most controversial overhauls of the justice system. Promises that changes will significantly shrink the court backlog by 2029. This is not true for a variety of reasons that we'll get into. When it was introduced,
if I was a career criminal, I would see this as a fucking challenge, to be honest. Like, right, if they, do you know what I mean? They're like, oh, we've reduced the court backlog. It's like, well, cool, I can fit in so many more crimes now. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just right. It's like, it's that whole thing about, like, you know, the lower the cost of something, the higher the demand, obviously. So like when the punishment for a crime is nothing, right? Then the crime will be infinite. That's just basic economics. So.
all small-time criminals in Britain to prestige to being crimes Georg is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? Like, fucking, just all they're doing is increasing the throughput by making the system more efficient. Just like it's like the water pipes, right? When they break, you just piss more water through them, so that, like, like still the same amount still comes out your taps. There is obviously at the other end infinite water available, so just do that. And this is the same principle, but for crimes, right? Like, you know what I mean?
So I'm gonna tread carefully here, but like when this bill was introduced, these proposed reforms, a lot of hay was made, specifically by its proponents, about the length of time that it takes for trials of sexual violence to be heard in court and for, defendants to be either convicted or not, but for a fair trial to take place. And that, this was doing, and I would agree that this does an immense disservice to the victims, but also to the defendants. Like, if you're not guilty, having a trial of sexual assault hanging over you must be like horrendous, right? It must be one of the most awful things in your life. You can lose your job, you can lose your family, your friends, and equally, like, if someone did sexually assault you, then having to live with that trauma, having to explain it to the police, having to explain it in court, having to wait to tell your story and get some form of closure must equally be appalling, right? Like, it is in nobody's interest that these things take forever to resolve. So,
yeah, but it is also in nobody's interest to just have a judge rubber stamp these fucking cases.
Yes, because miscarriages of justice do occur. They really do.
Yeah.
Like, it's not,
Yeah, like, do you know what I mean? And also, right, I don't think that the ultimate fucking arbiter of whether or not, like, do you know what I mean, a sexual assault was, like, has occurred or not on, the balance of, like, just like, well, you've heard the evidence, it's one guy's decision, should not be, in all, like, statistical likelihood, a rich white guy who went to fucking private school.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely, I don't know about that, so that's not something I want to speculate about too much. So a lot of the proposals that the government ends up making find at least some of their basis in a report by Brian Leveson, retired judge. Yes, that one, he of the inquiry that was never finalized. And it warns, probably not incorrectly, that the legal system, the criminal legal system, is in danger of actual collapse if some things aren't done about it. And that's something that he proposes is a restriction, a limited restriction, put it that way, to the amount of Crown Court jury trials. So this is where we have to talk a little bit about the difference between Magistrate Court and Crown Court. We've already done this in previous...
Was this report, am I remembering right, this is the one where they said, like, right, we need you to figure out how to fix the criminal justice system, which is, like, fucking just falling over and dying from lack of money, and none of your solutions can involve giving it
the
money.
Word money. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the instruction. I mean, I know that in the report he writes several times that it is essentially a crisis of funding, but what the government takes away from it is anything that doesn't have the word money on it. Like, it's all that's kind of why we have ended up where we ended up, because the government doesn't want to spend fucking money fixing the thing that requires money to fix it.
I can't remember, but I remember when we did cover something, and it was one of these reports, there was actually one report that was actually told you cannot ask for more money. Like, specifically, that's not allowed to be the problem, so it can't be the problem, find another.
So a lot of these reforms are specifically to do with Crown Courts, and it is important to sort of briefly understand the difference between Crown Courts, Magistrate Courts, and specifically the bit that lives in between those two. So minor offences, which are not the subject, which are never, as far as I know, like, adjudicated by jury trial, are in magistrate courts. These are also, like, vastly oversubscribed and, like, really cracking under the pressure. But this is if you're in criminal magistrate courts, you are there for essentially, like, small stuff, motoring offences, minor criminal damage, burglary, summary offences, essentially. These are either adjudicated by 2 or 3 magistrates or a district judge, and these courts cannot hand down sentences, at least at the moment, for imprisonment more than 12 months. So, like, these are really prescribed. they're your everyday crimes. Now, crown courts, which is where jury trials take place, these are for serious crimes. These are for murder, rape, robbery, if you do a hit and run and kill someone with your car. This is a class of crime known as indictable offenses, because you first have to be indicted in a lower court, and then you move on to crown court to be heard by a jury. This is where you have jury trials, and you have the right. You don't have to have a jury trial, but as a defendant, you can request a trial by jury.
Okay.
And in a jury trial, 12 randomly selected members of the public, they're just picked from the voter rolls, from the electoral register. They decide whether or not you are guilty, yay or nay. And the role of the judge in that system is to ensure that the process is correct, to instruct the jury, to call balls and strikes, with the opposing counsel, to act as an arbiter, but it is the jury who decides whether or not you're guilty or not. There's also, and this is the key bit where a lot of these proposed reforms want to take place, there are a lot of what are known as either way offenses, where defendants can choose between a jury-led trial and or one led by a judge or magistrates. And these are like where you exist on the border between a magistrate and a crown court. So like you might go to jail for like between 2 and 5 years. Like if you're in trial for life because you've committed a series of murders, that is an automatic crown court trial. No one disputes it. But a lot of stuff where most people in the UK actually get convicted for like more serious offenses is for like terms between 2 and 5 years. And in that system, you as the defendant would have a choice whether or not you have a trial by jury. And because so many of like cases, because most people don't go to prison for 10 years, they go for between, like either 1 year magistrate court or between 2 and 5. And it is specifically in this section that David Lammy wants to either wholly or mostly wholly get rid of jury trials.
Yeah.
So,
again, I kind of like vaguely understand the idea behind that, which is there's a grey area in which there's like options or whatever, so just like fix that, which is okay, cool, but the easiest way to fix that is just give them juries.
Yeah, or
like, just
like I want to get into that in a moment, like, but a lot of the fixes that would actually speed up trials have literally like nothing to do with whether or not it is a jury trial, yay or nay. Like it is, as far as I understand it, not true that all like. It is true that a lot of jury trials take a lot longer than judge-led trials, but that is because jury-led trials are complex cases involving gruesome things, robbery, rape, murder, all that stuff, where like a trial for that will almost automatically last a lot longer than, convicting someone of speeding offenses when the magistrate has like 5 pictures of you going 80 miles an hour in a school zone. Like these are different things are different. So what the idea is, this is the government's idea, is to create these new crown court divisions. So where that would sit in between the magistrate court and the actual crown court, where judges and magistrates alone hear cases on this lower end of the spectrum. Sentences of between 2 and 5 years. A lot of these either way cases, and David Lammy, in a great bit of sort of PR, wants to name these the Swift Bench Division of the Crown Court, which fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So the case that Labour and David Lammy in particular are making at the moment, and the bill has just passed the second reading in Parliament as we're recording this, is that it is juries that take up too much time. And this creates the backlog. This means victims aren't heard. They suffer needlessly, as does the accused, etc., stuff we were saying earlier. Now, it does seem to be true, like on some of the reporting that I've read, that jury trials have almost doubled in length since 2001. But again, these are all complex cases. And that is probably something that like you need to look at how you reduce that amount of time required, because like you are a layperson sitting in a jury, and if all of a sudden like you can't go to your job for like 12 months, that also kind of sucks shit. So like, there needs to be a way of making that system efficient while still being an actual justice system. But still, like jury trials only hear between 1 and 3% of all criminal cases. So the other 99 to 97% are already led by magistrate and judges. So how are you going to like make big leaps forward in terms of speeding up the justice system if what you're functionally talking about is between 1 and 3% of all criminal cases, right? That makes this makes no sense.
Yeah.
This cannot solve the thing that you are pretending to solve.
Yeah, there are no big savings when the amount of things that you're doing the changes to are fucking tiny. Yeah.
Now, some of the reason that like these trials have gone on much longer than they have in the past is to do with evidence, specifically to do with digital evidence. It's like, you know, like everybody has a smartphone now, and once the police gets access to it, they have to like mine the whole thing out. There's like a mountain of digital proof that courts and police forces have access to that we didn't have before. So things are more complex now. So I don't know. Maybe there's ways of doing that more efficiently. But the other thing that Labour and David Lammy are claiming is that suspects are deliberately choosing trial by jury in the hope that because these take so much longer, that the long wait helps their cases collapse, and accused people, not guilty people, but accused people who might well be guilty, walk away free because of inefficiencies and time lapses, right? Because of stuff we said earlier, you know, people move, people's memory isn't so good anymore, physical evidence degrades over time, all that stuff, right? And that is the big claim, that because it's all so long and so inefficient, you know, fucking a Daily Mail headline walks free every day, put it that way. So their suggestion is we will only maintain jury trials for the most serious cases, and almost everything else goes to judges. Now, what is the most serious cases? This is only offences with public interest, i.e. when the papers are writing about it, or if there's like an overriding legal need to have a certain case adjudicated, with possible prison sentences of more than 3 years, such as murder, rape, and manslaughter. So like everything else would then be judge-led. And judges and juries on the whole in total would now also be barred from hearing crimes related to fraud or financial crimes on the basis that these take too long, which may well be true, but also on the basis these are too complex for your pretty little heads, and juries couldn't wrap their heads around fucking Bitcoin crime or something.
Yeah, well, yeah, the pig people can't be trusted to know.
I mean, I do think there's in like a certain category of like advanced sort of high-tech crime, or like not even high-tech but like high complexity, like fucking, you know, shoveling money between 15 jurisdictions and all that stuff, where like you pay an army of lawyers and consultants to hide money for you. It is good if there is a certain amount of expertise, but like I also don't think it's beyond the grasp of most people to fucking learn something, you know? Like, I don't know. I learn new bullshit every week for this podcast, so.
Yeah, but that's like, again, that's like money though, right? Like if you want to, because the way to convince a jury of the crime there is to have an expert explain like what's going on and why it's illegal, and that means you've got to pay an expert, and we can't have that, right? Do you know what I mean?
So taken together, if you follow Labour's line of logic, right, these reforms would actually remove the large majority of the give or take 30,000 odd trials by jury that exist per year, and thus saving about 20% of trial time / judge sitting days. So like that would be the efficiency saving that they could then spend adjudicating more, and that would resolve the backlog in the system. But there is actually like a substantive kind of problem here, because as I'm doing the reading about this, what becomes very obvious to me is like the problem here is not so much that like juries and jury trials are not the only problem. For one, as I say, they're only between 1 and 3% of all cases anyway. But it's just like there are more other and more pressing reasons that trials take way more time. Like I said, laws and digital evidence are much more complex now, so that just takes more time to explain it to the jury. There's huge problems with massively overstressed probation and social services. So when the court mandates reports, you know, before sentencing is heard or before the case can proceed from social workers, you know, basic questions like, can this defendant stand trial? that all gets massively delayed because there's not enough social workers and there's not enough people working the probation service. There is, of course, as mentioned on many pods now, a massive lack of criminal barristers, and specifically one that I wanted to single out. Prisoners are routinely so late to their hearings and trials that their day in court literally has to get moved. Why is that? Well, that's because...
Is this fucking Group 4 or whatever they're called nowadays?
It's Serco and another group called GeoAmy. I'm not really sure who they are. They may be a subdivision of G4S, yeah.
That's a fucking Pokemon, isn't it?
Do they fix the roads on maps?
This is a privatized prisoner escort service. So, if you need to go from your private prison to jail, you do that in a private van owned and operated by Serco.
They'll just, you know what I mean? They'll just pull off at Scotch Corner on the A1 and get a fucking hamburger and let you out of the van and you run away. Those guys.
But I mean, what they did do and what they've been given fines for, though not, I should note, being prohibited from having these contracts again, was literally
that would be anti-business. Everyone makes a little whoopsie now and then.
No, what they would literally do is just claim that they had delivered the prisoner to court when they never had. They would just bullshit.
Well, I mean, I can't not respect that as a hustle, quite frankly. Do you know what I mean? Oh, yeah, we did the job. Have you checked the system again?
Yeah, so between Serco and this company called GeoAmy, in their private efficiency, they have created a 5-fold increase of the number of prisoners not turning up to their trials or days in court on time, to the point where, if it's 2 hours delayed, not only is the jury and the judge sitting there for no good fucking reason, at some point they have to just suspend the day because, you can't do a day in court anymore.
Yeah, but we can't punish those guys. Do you know what I mean? We can't fix that part of the problem, because what would we do there? Would we use public money to transport prisoners to and from jail? Are you absolutely fucking taking the piss, mate? Public money on my justice system? Fuck you.
So what essentially you have here is Labour trying to ram through these changes and removal of jury, of trial by jury, which again is a minority in the criminal system, but still it is an important component thereof.
But you've got to ram it through to protect private profits. That's what we're hearing.
I think it's partially to protect private profits. I think another much larger part of it is this sort of well-established thing, certainly with Keir Starmer now, that he wants to be seen as tough on crime, and Labour does have that in general. Tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime.
And
this is about headlines as well.
Yeah, he's just an authoritarian cunt. He hates the fucking poor people of Britain. If you're not on 6 figures a year minimum, you're a fucking cunt and you should be in jail or fucking, you know what I mean, working on a chain gang somewhere. That's his view. Or you know what I mean? But one of these forms of justice must be delivered to the pig people who Keir Starmer hates with his very fucking fibre. Do you know what I mean? Because they do not leave the lizard alone.
So the first question that we probably should ask at this point is, if you want to get rid of all these juries and have more judge-led trials, where are we going to get the judges and the magistrates from? Well, this is from a letter to The Guardian written by Janet Carter, a retired barrister. Quote, "Recruitment of suitable volunteers is not easy. The commitment is high and the criteria are quite properly tight." I mean, as they should be. In January 2022, there was a £1 million campaign to recruit 4,000 new magistrates. By April 2024, only 2,008 new magistrates had been appointed. The success rate of applicants in the year ending March 2025 was only 22%. Now, these are magistrates and not judges, and magistrates are essentially lay people who are given some level of instruction.
Yeah, we've talked about this before as well. How that's basically just a hobby for retired people, is that?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of fucking problems with magistrates, in general. Yeah.
By design, I'm gonna say, because if it was an actual proper job that paid a full wage, and you know what I mean, young people could do it, then you might end up with the wrong outcomes. So it's far better to have some decrepit Daily Mail fuckwit turn up and just go huh, that guy lives on a council estate, 10,000 years in jail. Do you know what I mean? A fucking
This is a little bit from melty cunt, but, still barrister, the blog of the secret barrister. I know, all right. Quote, instead, for offences carrying prison sentence up to 2 years, the government intends to force you to be tried and sentenced by 3 magistrates, unqualified, unpaid volunteers whose demographic overwhelmingly leans white, middle-aged, and middle class. Sarah Pochin MP was a magistrate, for reference, before she became professionally offended at the presence of black people on television. If you remember her and her bullshit.
So, like... don't, but you know what I mean, like one of fucking thousands in this
look,
country.
I don't want to say that every
I don't know you, but
is
I am
like
familiar with your game.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to say that like every magistrate is like a raging fucking racist piece of shit, but
no, that's what I'm
having lay people do this may be okay to some extent, but putting like more weight on their shoulders seems like a bad idea. And the weirdest thing is, like, David Lammy, or previous versions of David Lammy, agrees with me and us. This is from a piece in The Guardian. A review conducted by David Lammy, commissioned by David Cameron back when he was Prime Minister, concluded that juries remain fit for purpose and act as a filter for prejudice. The review concluded that of those convicted at magistrate courts, so not juries, for sexual offences, 208 black men and 193 Asian men received custodial sentences for every 100 white men. So that's almost a 2-to-1 ratio for BAME people versus white people. Of those women tried at magistrate courts, black women, Asian women, mixed ethnic women, and Chinese/other women were all more likely to be convicted than white women. Previous version of David Lammy wrote.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things to point out here is that David Lammy is a spineless cunt, right? Do you know what I mean? Who absolutely, like, whatever principles he might have had, whether he genuinely held them or not in the past, would fucking jettison those, like, the second he gets into fucking, like, government, because, you know what I mean, it's serious politics now. You have to, like, fucking, you know what I mean, sell your soul and just, like, do what fucking Keir Starmer tells you. And the second thing is that the very fact that juries remain, like, fit for purpose and act as a filter against prejudice is the reason that, like, they have to go, right? Like, do you know what I mean? That's why...
Yeah, I think that's part of it,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
there's shit fear of jury nullification, like...
It's just... The thing is, right? The thing is, like, being on a fucking jury is one of the most, like, important parts of, like, society, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, and, like, yeah, you know what I mean? If you ever fucking put me on a jury, I'm nullifying that shit in, like, 99% of fucking cases, right? Like, do you know what I mean? I am absolutely, like, showing everyone in that fucking jury room 12 Angry Men on a loop until they fucking get this program. But, like, you know, like, seriously, it is seriously a very important fucking duty, right? Like, do you know what I mean? That's why they have a jury of your peers, is because you can't trust some fucking, like, ancient white cunt to be impartial, and that's why you have to farm it out to, like, a dozen people so that they will, like, fucking, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
reach
wisdom of the crowd,
opinion.
essentially.
Yeah, that sort of thing, right? And so you will note, however, that, like, fucking being on a jury is, and again, I'm going to say this is by design, a huge fucking inconvenience, because you've got to take time off work, you don't get fucking, like, paid for it, you know what I mean? Like, fucking, it's just a pain in the arse to travel there, like, fucking, it just generally does not, like, as a responsibility, does not mesh well with the requirements. It doesn't mesh well with the requirements of modern life, right? And, like, also, culturally, it's just, like, considered to be one of the worst fucking, like, you know what I mean, things ever. Like, people are constantly, like, joking about how to get out of it. Like, fucking, every time you see it come up, it's like, fucking, oh, yeah, well, fucking, you know what I mean? I got jury duty, fuck me. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone, it's just, like, and again, that is by design, because, like, if people fucking hate doing it, then, like, you know, like, if the average person hates doing it, or can't, like, you know, like, wants to get out of it because they can't really afford the time off work, or, like, you know, they can't arrange fucking childcare or any of this sort of stuff, you are more likely to end up with a jury of retired Daily Mail readers with nothing better to do,
can afford
who also have a burning fucking passion to punish the other, whatever form that other takes, whether it be, like, minorities, poor people, women, you know, like, so it's just what they have is a system that, like, is from the top down, skewed in favor of white men, and it's still not enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, we have to fucking, like, grind it even more to just, like, get that last little bit of, like, fucking, of justice out of the way.
And this is sort of like borne out sort of by studies as well, right? So there's a 2022 study by the University of Manchester which found that a survey of 373 legal professionals found that 56% stated they had witnessed at least one judge acting in a racially biased way towards a defendant, while 52% had witnessed discrimination in judicial decision-making. Examples ranged from hostility to black defendants, including the use of the term "you people" to the imposition of harsher sentences, as previously highlighted by the Lammy report, which, obviously that's not the same David Lammy as we have today. That's a very different guy from a different time period. Don't worry about it. The study also criticizes the current 5-year strategy to boost judicial diversity for failing to mention racial bias or racism. Currently, only 1 or 2% of sitting judges, at least as I understand it, are black. So, like, this is a real minority. There's also a huge lack of the judicial branch does not police itself properly, as well as this is a bit from The Guardian. The Judicial Executive Board has declined to publish a report it commissioned into bullying and racism. So even when it does investigate itself, it simply chooses not to make that report available to the people who rely on judges for, justice. And like David Lammy old David Lammy, not current David Lammy, old David Lammy was not alone. Here is old Keir Starmer writing in Socialist Lawyer magazine in 1992. The right to trial by jury is an important factor in the delicate balance between the power of the state and the freedom of the individual. The further the right to trial by jury is restricted, the greater the imbalance. Of course, that would become as a surprise to today's Keir Starmer, who thinks there's no problem whatsoever.
Well, today's Keir Starmer presumably has more money than 1992 Keir Starmer.
And I also think there is, like, what I think, Jamie, you were already referencing before, is like there has been recently an uptick in jury acquittals based on juries believing and stating outright that people who were defendants in a criminal case acted on their morals and their conscience and should therefore not go to prison. People from Palestine Action, environmental protesters, climate protesters, these are all people who have been acquitted by juries, whereas I think, like, it's always speculation, but like a judge-led trial would probably have convicted these people specifically in the range that David Lammy's swift bench justice for, Avenger initiative would probably have convicted them.
Yeah, because a jury is of their peers, whereas a judge is part of the establishment, and these people are deliberately antagonizing the establishment. And so a judge is much more likely to just rubber stamp, like, fucking, do you know what I mean, death by stoning or whatever Keir Starmer wants for fucking, like, people who throw paint at a fucking framed photo or something. Like, you threw chalk on the snooker table, death.
Yeah,
like, that sort of thing. Like, but he's gonna. Honestly, that cunt would be so happy if, like, if, like, we deposed him as prime minister, but gave him a Judge Death costume and let him just, like, roam around the streets, like, fucking, do you know what I mean? Screaming about, like, the crime is life at people.
Yeah,
that could be
like,
his role, right? Like the Somerset Gimp. He just wanders around in a Judge Death costume, like, fucking scaring people in hedges and stuff like that. He'd be much happier.
So here's a bit from David Lammy, who got an article yesterday, so that was Monday 9th, in the Telegraph to, tout these wonderful reforms. So apart from, restricting right to trial by jury, what he was also promising was modernization. Quote the article, blitz courts, and that's a term you really want to
all the way off, like, do you know what I mean? Fucking blitz. If I never want to hear a fucking British person use the word blitz as long as I fucking live, do you know what I mean? Like, genuinely, like, do you know what I mean? Top 5 worst things the Germans have ever done is, like, fucking give British people the fucking, like, do you know what I mean? The word blitz. I'm just so sick of fucking hearing about it.
Yeah.
Is a fucking, do you know what I mean? Is a blitz court where you all wear a little tin hat and a man yells at you for turning the lights on? Is that what, like, it is? You know what I mean?
No.
Is it like when you put your granddad with dementia in, like, one of those care homes where they've done it up like it's the 50s still?
Now, according to David Lemmy, these blitz courts will hear similar cases together to save time. Which, how is that justice if the cases are similar but not the same? Like,
is this going to be? Is this genuinely like the cunts watched like CSI New York and gone? Well, they're always working on 3 cases at once. Why not us?
Every judge should have an A, B, and C plot at the go.
Yeah. We've abolished the jury, but the judge is going to take off his sunglasses when he sentences you.
I mean, I haven't looked into this, but I'm willing to speculate on this and say it's something like, what if, the cops kettled, let's say, 50 environmental protesters, arrested them all together, and then in a blitz court, all these 50 people would just like receive the same sentence at the same time because they were in the same place.
It's literally Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, then the bit where they bring all like 50 mobsters into the courtroom at once to charge them with like fucking racketeering or whatever.
Yes.
Oh, I fucking hate being alive so much. Do you know what I mean?
And there will also, if you hated being alive before, here's this. There will also be new AI tools to help judges manage court listings more efficiently.
We literally just watched a fucking shitty film. Well, I didn't watch all of it, but we literally just fucking like, do you know what I mean? I can't believe they're inventing the fucking like Rebecca Ferguson from Chris Pratt hit movie Don't Invent the Rebecca Ferguson.
So, according to an open letter by the Bar Council, this is like the sort of, I don't know, union association of barristers and lawyers. This was a letter signed by over 3,200 lawyers as well as 21 retired judges. Quote, instead of draining valuable time and resources attempting to force through an unpopular, untested, and poorly evidenced change to our jury system, and one that will only have effect, if any, by 2028-29, so, not for the people currently going through the hell of waiting for their day in court for, any kind of horrible thing, but specifically those to do with sexual violence, we urge the government to focus on the changes that we know will make a difference now. And I can only agree with that, because the things that you could fix now are things like the prisoner transport. You could pay, find staff and pay people and reopen literally more physical courtrooms. You could improve IT systems, which are like decrepit in case of the criminal courts. Like, we know that these break down all the time because they're like Windows 2000 or NT or some bullshit. Like, they don't work. But they don't want to do that because what Labour wants to do is they want to try to fix the courts and the criminal justice system, not by funding it and making intelligence changes. They want to fix it with no money. And the wrong way to do that will also not make any difference is to get rid of the right for trial by jury for 90% of all people that currently have that option.
Yeah. I mean, as a quick aside, right? You said I'd genuinely forgotten about Windows 2000 until you mentioned it there, and I can't hear anyone say Windows 2000 without thinking about that fucking like meme where it was like the Geordie version. It was like Windows 2000. But also, I
think does that make that your favorite operating system?
Yeah, yeah. The fucking icon for paint was labeled colouring in. I think the way to fix like fucking the way to save the criminal justice system from this government, right? And this isn't a perfect solution by any means. It does have downsides, but give Jolly on Mom a Gundam.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, the last living liberal.
Yeah, we'll lose a lot of foxes in London, right? But on the upside, we'll save criminal justice and like fucking large portions of the NHS as well. I should imagine.
Yeah,
so,
you heard it here first. This podcast is now also in favor of hard choices.
It's just the sensible grown-ups are back on the pod.
Yeah. So like, to be fair, Labour has removed the sort of Boris Johnson era cap on limiting the number of sitting days by judges. They've added almost 2.8 billion in extra funding to the system, but like 2.8 billion as a one-off payment does not make up for a persistent near 5 billion a year funding gap that's been building for a decade. So like,
big number though.
Big number though, but not nearly enough.
No, it needs more zeros, but like, but it looks good in the papers, right?
Yeah.
It looks good in the papers, who will immediately report that and then immediately go on about how like the fucking judges are too soft and enemies of the state, and they only prosecute white small business owners, and they've never convicted like a person of color in their entire career.
Yeah. And like, what I find really repulsive about what's been going on in the last week, but also certainly over the last few months, anytime this topic comes up, is like people in labor, people who want this thing to happen, is to point out that a slow justice system is a torment for like the victims, and then they always bring up women and girls. And like, look, I'm not making light of that. That is horrible if you were sexually assaulted, and if you have to wait like 3-4 years for your day in court, and like for you to have the chance to sort of see justice done to whatever extent is possible. I want that for you, but I also want that defendant to have a legitimate day in court, so that the outcome can, fucking resemble as best it can the philosophical idea of actual justice. But just insisting that speed will solve things, swift bench division is not good.
It's just a recipe for mistrials, but the thing is that speed to get through a trial properly is like that's one problem in itself. But even then, it's a very small problem, because if you're doing it right, that's just how long a trial takes. The problem is these things getting to trial in the first place, and the solution isn't just fuck a bunch of them up and catch up, and then maybe think about. Well, you'd have the option to think about it, but look at the savings, so you wouldn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean the thing with mistrials is I think they're also planning to reduce the right of appeal.
They are, vastly limiting, specifically for these in-between trials of when you're sentenced between 2 and 5 years in a magistrate court, right? They want to limit or even remove your right of appeal because, swift justice.
Yeah, we're creating the mistrial factory, and we cannot possibly allow anything to come up which might show that we created the mistrial factory.
That's right. The another thing I'm going to say as well, though, is like, first of all, this fucking government needs to stop just like swinging fucking like women and girls and children in general just around as a fucking club, because it's like how they're pushing through everything. It's like fucking...
It's fucking disgusting.
It's and I keep banging this drum, but it's government by tabloid journalism, right? Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, like everything is just, we need a panopticon, we need like fucking like a tank on every street corner. Everyone should be tracked by an app everywhere they go. Like, just like everything constantly just like bearing down a surveillance state that we can just hand over to reform once Labour get ousted at the next election, which will be fun for everyone concerned, I'm sure. But we need all of this, because if we didn't have facial recognition cameras on every street corner and in every public toilet, then like think of the children. Right? Do you know what I mean? If Keir Starmer didn't have a fucking access, like an instantly accessible database of what every like fucking person in the country wanks to, then a child might be like fucking, do you know what I mean, subjected to seeing things that they shouldn't see on the internet, and so you better like get scanning your face, and it's frankly fucking disgusting. I'd rather they would actually like do some evidence-based policy instead of just like constantly leaning on like, but do you hate women and girls? And it's like, no. Do you know what I mean? And I would argue that maybe like fucking Keir Starmer does, right? Because like a thing with like, it's like, it's like, it's taking so long for like sexual assault cases and rape cases to get to trial, but like the amount of them that are actually like the amount of like cases that actually end in charges being like fucking brought is minuscule.
It's also super low. Yeah.
Like the Crown Prosecution Service, and I don't know who was in charge when this like took effect. I don't know how long ago it was, but the Crown Prosecution Service has effectively, like people say, decriminalized rape, because like, the vast majority of rapes go unreported, and then of the ones that are reported, like a tiny percentage are actually fucking sent to trial, and then of those, like, and even like a small, like obviously a smaller percentage of those end in convictions. But you've got like all these hurdles to get to before you even get in the queue to wait for a trial date, because the police might just not give a fuck. And also the police have like a history of just being fucking horrible to people who report sexual crimes against them. You know, the police just like victim blaming or considering it's not really a crime or it wasn't that serious. And also the police won't produce a file of evidence, because for those crimes that are like considered more serious, they have to produce a full like file of evidence, I think. Whereas for like, you know, like a regular regular crime, they can give the CPS a file and then continue to collect evidence. But for crimes of a sexual nature, you have to have all of the evidence ready for trial before you give it to the CPS. And then, like, so a lot of cops will just go, okay, do I want to spend 200 hours writing a file for this, which then the Crown Prosecution Service might not even fucking, like, bother with? Or do I just want to tick the box that says insufficient evidence? Do you know what I mean? Like, so, you know, and then when the Crown Prosecution Service gets them, a lot of them, like, it's hard. Yeah, you know, a lot of the time the case will like collapse or be withdrawn or whatever, and so that looks bad for the lawyer in question. So they'll just go, yeah, we're not taking that any further, and then you know what I mean. And it just filters all the way down. And then when like the few people who do make it to a court have to wait years, and this isn't going to fix that. So I think the government should maybe like actually fucking, you know, and obviously we say this every week for a number of fucking different reasons, but maybe they should do their fucking jobs for once
and fund the fucking thing. Like that's like the most important thing. There's one more thing I wanted to mention about this. I mean, this is from the recent blog post on the Secret Barrister blog, which I think is a point well worth making. Is that like currently, right, the appointment of judges is in the hands of the Judicial Appointments Commission. This is an independent body, etc., etc. But when Robert Jenrick, now at Reform but previously with the Tories, when he was still with the Tories, he stood on stage and announced that he said, look, when we get back into power, I'm going to transfer the power of appointing judges into essentially the hands of the Lord Chancellor, which would be Robert Jenrick. So then he, and presumably some other people, but mainly whoever's Lord Chancellor, would have like their pick of judicial appointments. And it's like, if you remove the right by jury, and let's say that Reform does form the next government, and they say, well, now we get to pick like 400 insane Facebook judges, there's nobody there to stop them. So like this government under Keir Starmer and David Lammy cannot be fucking trusted. I pinky promise you that. But like what they are also doing by design or inadvertently is, you know, building the tools for the next bunch of cunts, if it isn't the Green and if it is Reform, to do some really terrifying shit and just like pervert the entire justice system almost without recourse. So like, if nothing else, that is a hypothetical, but that is not an unreasonable one, because Robert Jenrick stood on stage at the Conservative conference and said, this is what I will do.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely by design, I think, that they're going to like build this fucking, you know what I mean, police state and then hand it over to Reform.
Yeah, I never know if liberals are that smart, but like I think it's a consequence that's worth bearing in mind.
It's by design, and they can absolutely do this for themselves. And liberalism as a system itself has a natural inherent flaw in that it always constantly drifts to the right, allowing fascism to take over. Like that's just
but like they are fully aware that they're going to lose the next election, right? There's no way they're that like deluded. So they're fully
they
aware
absolutely
that
are, because no, they wouldn't be targeting Reform voters if they didn't think they could actually take them. Like it's genuinely that. No, it's a level of entitlement and like inability to actually look at reality for what it is that liberals are only capable of.
No, I think they're fully aware that they're never going to win over like, you know what I mean? They're never going to win over Reform voters, and they're just doing it because like what's the alternative? It's to move left. And they're never. That's not like. Do you know what I mean? Keir Starmer is the most like establishment figure we've ever seen, and so you know what I mean. The British establishment wants one thing out of politics, and that is rightward movement, like you know what I mean, or staying still. And it's never to move left, and that's the only fucking thing that drives him, is that like you know. So he'll build a police state, the like of which the country's never seen, and then hand it over to Reform, and Reform will use it to just wreak havoc and like ruin lives. But that'll be fine, because then at the next election, like, you know, Labour can like sweep back in and inherit that police state again and make it a little bit more worse and a little bit more efficient and everything for the next, for the reboot Britain party or whatever the fuck's coming after reform.
I mean,
shat
that's
the bed.
yeah. It's no different to how it's always worked. It's always worked like that. Labour are shit, and they do their thing and they're shit at it, and then everyone goes, "Oh fuck this," and they vote Tory, and then we get like austerity forever, and then. It's just the same thing over and over again. The cycle continues. Two parties do the fucking thing and the dance, and they don't actually meaningfully care how different they are to each other because they're not. They're the same thing. Liberalism and fascism are the same thing.
Yeah, no, it's just fully mask off now.
Right. I think at this point, look, it's sad to say, but the vote passed. I think it's 304 to 203. It passed while we were discussing this. It's second reading. I can't remember how it works. It's third reading. It still has to go through the Lords. So there's still plenty of time, and we've seen certainly in the Lords that shit can get really altered and stuff, which needs to happen. I'm never fond of you telling anyone to write to their MPs, but this is a bill that has a lot of abstainers and a lot of people not sure. So maybe it does make a difference, maybe not. But this is not good, and as the fucking world is exploding around us, this is a bad thing. So, whatever influence you may have, I don't know, if you have a shithouse MP, does it make sense to write them? That's entirely up to you. But, making noise, being present, talking about this, being aware of this is important because, once the right to trial by jury goes, it's not fucking coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. Write to your MP. And if you can afford it, donate to the GoFundMe I'm going to set up to buy Jolly on Moore Gundam.
Right, and on that note, thank you very much for listening. If you would like to support the podcast and also get bonus content and join our Discord, which is genuinely a lovely little community that we're building, you can go to patreon.com/praxiscast. Costs £5 a month. There are streams on a sort of accidental basis, but Alistair is, fighting the plague god at the moment, so we don't know when he's gonna, return from his sojourns. But catch us on Blue Sky, catch us in the places, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
And also, if you do join the Discord and anyone asks you where you keep your butter, tell them to shove it up their arse.
That too. All right.
Bye.